Thank you so much, Sam. I'm a little bit overwhelmed by that introduction, and it's very kind and sweet of you. And it's wonderful to be with you and to be with all of you. Uh, I want to talk a little bit today about softening. And so a lot of us, as we put our intentions in the chat, they're beautiful, beautiful intentions. And I know sometimes when I have an intention, um, I'm not necessarily the softest with myself about that intention. If I veer off course, I like to hammer I don't like to, but I do hammer myself a little bit about it. Or sometimes I set an intention for myself that maybe is not very kind to myself because it's an intention that I know if I spend 5 seconds thinking about it, I'm not going to be able to get there. So let's just take a moment, and you may have been much more wise about your intention as you put it in the chat or as you thought about it to yourself. And maybe you gave yourself a very soft and loving intention. But if you take a moment to look at your intention and think about, is this soft? Is this loving? Am I treating myself with compassion as I set this for my intention today? And then if you think, well, maybe that wasn't so compassionate and soft and gentle to myself, maybe to readjust your intention in a way that is loving toward yourself and accepting of who you are and accepting of where you are right in this very moment. Right now. So we are heading into Shabbat Nachamu. The Shabbat of comfort. Shabbat of gentleness. A Shabbat of loving kindness. A Shabbat of acceptance. Acceptance for who we are, where we are right now. An acceptance of any sadness that we might feel. I saw some loss come up in that chat as well. So giving ourselves some softness if we're experiencing loss in this moment, and allowing ourselves to have some softness as we enter Shabbat. Our parsha for this week includes the Shema. So I wanted us to kind of juxtapose these two ideas of comfort and oneness, and the comfort of that mantra of the Shema, if we will, with those words that we're so familiar with and that for many of us provide us with a lot of comfort, words that many of us say before we fall off to sleep in the evenings. And then thirdly, on the end of that, leading right into the words of Ve'ahavta. So 3 concepts: comfort, oneness, and love. Comfort, oneness, and love. And that's where we can sit today, just bringing that idea of comfort to ourselves. Now, the other thing about comfort, and I think that sometimes when I want to comfort myself, I will do things that maybe are not so wholesome or healthy for myself. Like, there are lots of foods that I love to eat that I think that in the moment they are providing me with comfort. And I think that this comfort, Shabbat Nachamu, it's different. It's different from that idea of comfort food or indulgence, right? So when I thought about this, I actually was thinking about my uncle. My Uncle Brahmin gives the best hugs in the universe. And when you get a hug from Uncle Brahmin, you just relax. and there's just a softness that comes. And so I'm hoping that you all have somebody in your life who you can think about that kind of an embrace, where you receive an embrace from somebody like that, and it just allows you to soften your body and to soften your breath. So that's where we're going to sit today, with that idea of softening, comfort, and oneness. If having words to focus on is helpful for you, today would be a great day to focus on the words of Shema as we sit. So we're going to go ahead and just find a way to be comfortable in the body. And today, instead of focusing on that upright feeling, if that is a way of sitting softly for you, please engage in that way. And just find a way to be soft in the body, to relax the muscles. Even thinking about how can we invite softness into our joints, the major joints of the body, ankles, knees, hips, wrists, elbows, shoulders. Inviting softness behind the eyes and allowing them to either close or just relax. Really letting go and inviting softness into all of the muscles, the many muscles that allow our face to smile, to talk, letting go of the jaw, relaxing the tongue within the mouth, and inviting softness and gentleness into this moment and this moment, and each moment that follows. Ami Yomar Elohechem Nachamu Nachamu Ami Yomar Elohechem. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle to care for one another. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle with this world. Ami Yomar Elohechem Nachamu Nachamu Ami Yomar Elohechem. So those words of comfort come at the beginning of the Haftarah portion for this week. And they end with these words. Youths may grow faint and weary, and the young may stumble and fall. They who trust in the One will renew their strength. As eagles grow new plumes, they shall run and not grow weary. They shall march and not grow faint. So as we balance our lofty, grand, and beautiful aspirations, may we also feel that sense of softening within them and comfort. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much, Kerith. We'd like to invite those who would like to recite Kaddish in just a moment to unmute yourselves and join in. It's also helpful for those who may not be reciting Kaddish to respond Amen. And if you'd like to put the name of the person for whom you're saying Kaddish in the chat, you're invited to do so at this time. And we can all look on and hold these precious souls dearly departed in heart and mind as we magnify and sanctify the great name of the oneness of being, a oneness in which every one of these people who passed away was an indispensable part of the whole. So if you'd like to join me, you can unmute yourself now. And you can rise in body or spirit or both. It gadal vikadash
Vikadash me Rabba Yama Dikhe Vyam Lipamte Ahe Hon Kayakon Hai Nahobek Israel Gala Ubasman Kari
Amen.
Galav Yisrael
Yehesh me Rabba Mavarach
Hesh me Rabba
Ame
Mabarak
Tarach
Ve'olam Ome Amaya
Ishtar
Yitbarak
Vietnam
V'Yitabak
Vietnase
Ar
Vietadar
V'Traman
Vietadam
V'Nase
Shalom Shame
V'Tadar
Vishabru
V'Talel V'Talal
Leila
Shme
Minko Virata Vishirata Tushkata Vene
Shirata
Amata
V'Shirata
Damiran Bialam
Ubshakata
Biamru Ame
V'Nekamata Damiran
Yehesh Lama
Bi'alama
Rabba
V'Ru Ame
Michamaya Lahai Malenu
Yehesh
Viako
Lama
Israel
Rabba
Vimru
Min
Shame
Shamaya Chayim
Israel
Malinu V'Alma
Ma
Israel
Uya Say Shalom
Amen.
Enu Viako
Kusei
Israel
Shalom Bimrama
Imru
Uyasei
Amen.
Shalom Aleno V'Al Israel Imru Amen.
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 May the one who is peace allow those who've passed on to be embraced in the bonds of life, of peace, of love, and for those who are left behind to experience peace of mind. May the memories of those who've passed inspire us to acts of loving kindness, compassion, wisdom, and peace. And let us say Amen.
Amen.
So I'd like to thank Adi Stein, who's been holding us behind the scenes, really holding this Zoom session together and making sure everything runs smoothly, as well as our sponsor today, Kamara Elaine Altman Corbin. Again, happy birthday to you, Kamara. And may you enjoy many years of good health and joyous living. And for those who'd like to stay on, we're going to turn now to some questions. If you have a question for Kerith, please feel free to put it in the chat and to offer the word question in caps as a prologue so that I can pick out the questions from some of the other reflections that are coming in. Before we go to your questions, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions, Kerith. It was really compelling to me when you spoke about these two different kinds of comfort, right? Like comfort food. You know, for me, I certainly have my own comfort foods and find myself in like fashion going to the fridge when things feel a little challenging, stressful, overwhelming, discomforting, and disquieting. I also like, going to the TV, and what I notice in myself is that often when I'm doing that, it's because there's an unconscious belief, right, that my stability, that my well-being depends on something external to myself, right? And I would like to invite you to say a little bit more about how practice might support us and how it's supported you to kind of shift toward a different understanding of what truly brings us comfort in the long run.
Sam, that's such a wise observation of, looking externally, that belief. Can you say that again one more time for us? The belief that.
Yeah, the unconscious belief often, right? We're often not even aware that it's there, but we've been conditioned by our culture to believe that somehow if we want to be happy, stable, right, comforted, we need to reach for something external to allay our anxiety, fear, disquietude, etc. And I'm just wondering how your own practice has been a support for you in kind of shifting toward a different orientation around comfort.
Yeah. So I think it's so very natural to reach for something that, has an immediate feeling of benefit for us, right? So I think food, TV, those are great examples. I know for me, I live in California. We have amazing wines here. I really love a nice glass of wine. And those are all fine things. I want to be super clear that I'm not saying like, I love having a glass of wine with dinner. It's a wonderful, nice thing. It's not bad, not something we should shun. But I think, Sam, you got so beautifully to the heart of this that when we're reaching for that as a means of comfort, it can be for us a moment of saying, wait a second, I need comfort. If we take that just that split second to be mindful about what's going on. And if it's just enjoyment and part of yeah, that's no problem. That's great. But if it's like, oh, I really need this. I really need this so that I can feel comforted. That should be a really, really wonderful wake up call for us to say, is this truly what's going to provide me comfort? Is there really anything that can provide me comfort right now? Or is it maybe wholesome to sit and just recognize my discomfort in this moment? And sometimes that's not wholesome either. Sometimes we need to step back from it because that can be overwhelming and take over. So I think for me, just the awareness of noticing what my body mind is telling me at any given moment, and not to go for the quick fix, is something that's come from my practice. I do also sometimes go and grab the chocolate. And that's okay. I don't need to beat myself up about that.
Thanks. This is beautiful. It reminds me of a teaching I heard from Joanna Katz, who some of you may know. She was one of my first meditation teachers. And she said that she learned from one of her teachers, before engaging in an act that may be unwholesome, and by unwholesome, I mean something that can cause us or others suffering, right? Or promote greater suffering in the world as opposed to reducing our suffering and the suffering in the world. It's helpful to ask ourselves, is this going to be wholesome? And then while we're doing it, to ask ourselves the question, is this wholesome? And after we're done, to ask ourselves the question, was that wholesome? And I feel that teaching really speaks to what you're suggesting, which is that whatever the tendency may be, right, just to bring mindfulness to it and to explore, how it's impacting me here and now, as well as the people around me, so that ultimately we can move through life with greater intentionality instead of automaticity and roboticism.
Yeah.
Very, very helpful.
I think some other language that I know that word wholesome really works for me, but I know that it doesn't work for everyone. So some other language that can be helpful around that is, who or what does this serve, right? So both of those are great ways to, explore what we're about to engaging in, or just have engaged in.
Yeah, so helpful. So helpful. One more question, and we'll turn to the questions in the chat in just a moment. You brought forth this beautiful theme of comfort and connected it, so beautifully and clearly with the Shema, the oneness, the love. And actually, we're entering a period right now, beginning this Shabbat, that's called Zayin de Nechemta, which means the 7 weeks of consolation or of comfort, right? And it comes on the heels of Tisha B'Av, the saddest day of the year in the Jewish calendar, when we mourn the destruction of both temples, the murder and massacre of countless people, as well as many other Jewish calamities that happened during Jewish history. And there's kind of post-traumatic orientation here, where there's a recognition that when we experience a collective trauma as a people, we need at least 7 weeks, right, of comfort and healing to be able to then come into the high holidays whole on some level. And I love how you really grounded this piece of comfort in the body as well. And I'm wondering if you might speak a little bit to the way in which you experienced the 7-week period and the ways in which practice supports you to take advantage fully of this 7-week period.
Oh, I'm going to be real with you. This is a really stressful time for cantors. If you know any cantors and they would benefit from an embrace, go give one them either virtually or in person, and rabbis too. This is a time that is very full, right? In terms of my personal workload. So, when I was hook and hug your local synagogue admin. Liz, absolutely. Yes. Hugs to all of you, synagogue admins on here. It is a tough time, but it's actually the perfect time to engage in practice. And our teacher, Jordan, had this great phrase. He said that our practice is like building an ark for when the flood comes. And I just love that. I think about that all the time, so that hopefully, like now might not be the best time for a synagogue admin or a cantor or a rabbi to start a meditation practice. Okay. Like when you're in the middle of it, maybe not the best time to start. But if you've been building that all along, during that time of when we're inundated, it can be a place of refuge. That also being said, I think every year as I prepare for the holy days of my teacher, Eli Schleifer, Cantor Eli Schleifer, in Jerusalem, who I remember him saying to me and my class that, it wasn't about putting the music in the books and preparing the choirs and making sure that, the High Holy Day trope was learned and all of the tasks that we need to do. But that if our souls are not prepared, to stand in front of the kahal on that day, then how can we expect anyone to feel connected to us? It's a time to engage in that self-reflection, which can sometimes lead to, that's why this comfort idea is so appealing to me, can sometimes lead to a little bit of harshness with ourselves. And while we want to be truthful and uphold ourselves to high standards, I feel that the best way to do that is with this bit of comfort as well, and with a softness, so that we can actually move forward. Because if it's only about, I did wrong, I need to change, I'm not good enough, there's no room for actually making change, no room for actual teshuvah.
Thanks. That's so helpful. So I really want to invite everybody over the next 7 weeks to be as soft and loving and self-forgiving as you can, as Kerith is reminding us. There's a couple of questions in the chat. One was just, where can I find the words to the chant? So Kerith, maybe you can drop those in the chat, and if not, maybe you can tell us where to find the lyrics.
Absolutely. So that song was written by Ilana Arian, and I think she has a website where all of her music is available. Let's support our composers who are writing Jewish music. It is a very small pool of people who are buying this music, as opposed to like the people who are writing music for Christian churches. So I would say go to Ilana Arian. I'm going to write her name, Ilana Arian, in the chat. Oh, nope. I just sent that to Susan by mistake because I think Susan might have chatted me. I'm going to write it for everyone now. Ilana Arian. Go to her website and purchase the music from her.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. A couple of questions here. I'm seeing a question here from Susan. Are there not times when real life challenges do overwhelm our inner capacities, and we would benefit greatly from receiving comfort from others? We cannot expect ourselves to not feel depleted when the demands of life are indeed over the top.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's, reaching out to a trusted friend, and telling them exactly what you need from them. Have you ever had somebody do that to you? And it feels so good because it's like, oh, well, now I know exactly what to do for you. And I can really be there for you. Sometimes that's hard if we're truly, truly overwhelmed, and then just asking someone to be with us, to sit with us in our overwhelmed place can be enough. But absolutely reach out. I mean, that's why we're here. I could sit by myself, and I do, but it's way more fun and supportive and wonderful to be a part of this community and to sit here with you. So we need each other.
Yeah, that's true for me as well. Thanks for lifting that up. One more. This one is from, bear with me for one sec, Lori. It seems that comfort in the face of sadness is often thought to be doing what will create a feeling of less sadness. Can you please speak to the idea that perhaps comfort is to allow a deepening of sadness, removal of decrease of resistance to sadness, feeling safer and more wholesome, of letting sadness take its course?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if I can say it any better, any better than that. But I do feel that it's one of the reasons that I was focusing on this softness in the body, right? Because sometimes when when difficult things come toward us, whether it's grief, loss, anger, our physical response is to tighten, to push away. And if we allow it to soften within us, it can move through us rather than just giving resistance to it. And I am not implying that that is easy.
Yeah, thanks, Kerith. Really helpful. I remember a time actually when I was mourning my father, who passed away a couple years ago at this point, and I just felt a wave of grief wash over me. And because of my practice of really befriending whatever arises here and now, and also relating to it as a teacher, right? I really welcomed it in, and it was extremely painful. But it's exactly as you say, it really had a kind of flow to it. I could really kind of feel it moving through my system, kind of making its way through my nervous system and my mind, and actually I felt a profound joy at just being able to be with my grief in that way, and then that particular wave kind of made its way through my system and passed. Whereas if I'd been resisting it, right, and either looking away or repressing it, or getting angry at someone that I'm feeling sad, or angry at, the universe or whatever the case may be, I probably would have, my heart would have hardened just as you've described, and I would have become very tight in my body, and my mind would have constricted around some sort of a story of me being a victim or something like that, So I just wanted to share that story because it really lifts up what you're talking about. And just so grateful that we have the opportunity to come together and practice with one another so that we can be in that kind of a relationship with our experience, which can be so deeply liberating and can allow us to experience even afflictive states of heart and mind with some degree of equanimity and joy.
Sam, thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend. We're going to wish everyone peaceful, a restorative Shabbat, a Shabbat of comfort if you need it. Mark will be back next week. And in the meantime, may you and yours be healthy, safe, and peaceful.